morning, everybody. It is July the 22nd, Saturday. I just got home from my trip out west. Ended up hitting New Mexico, Washington State, and then ended up in Las Vegas. It was a good trip. Got a lot of, it was a work trip. Got a lot of good work done, and got back home last night in time to go see part of my son's play that he was in. He was in Beauty and the Beast, and man, he's been in a few plays now. He's getting really good, so it was cool to see that. Just do a quick video update this morning. As you can see behind me, that way our dry lake back there, it's got a little bit of water in it in some places, but ultimately it makes me sad. It's used to that background would just be full of water. Couple of things we're going to cover today. First off, the monthly revenue check is coming right now. I just notified by YouTube, and y'all, we made over $500 again this month. That's going to go to St. Jude. So man, we're still doing great. I was blown away by that figure. I thought it was going to be much lower, but you guys are watching videos, and people like Mike Burton saying they just put it on auto repeat or whatnot, and keep playing the videos. Man, whatever's going on out there, it's working, and that money's going to be cut up to St. Jude's as soon as it gets into my bank account. So kudos to all of you, and what a positive difference we're making. So excited. The next brief thing I'll cover is again, business rules on here. I know last week's video was could be contentious and could have been seen by some of the people who provided me trail magic as unappreciative, but what I'll tell you, and maybe you didn't explain it as well last week as I should have, or I tried to, man, you can never please everybody, trust me. Yeah, I guess the question is to get my point across. If somebody asked me, hey, if you could go back and do your through hike over again, would you change stuff? Would you change how people provided you trail magic? And I'll be honest with you, man, I wouldn't change a single thing about my through hike. I didn't know what I didn't know back then. I was caught off guard by the popularity of this channel. But ultimately, this community that built around that channel was amazing. And there isn't one face out there that I would have changed a meeting at all. As I look back at it, I think about or all the days that people like Stan the Man came out, and obviously Iceman is just a trail angel beyond imagination. Your Gadgets, who came out and sat with me in my tent site that night, and we had a great conversation, and he was just commenting the other day how he had to hike out all that food at night back up to his truck, how he's lucky a bear didn't grab him. Anyway, I wouldn't change any of that. It was just great. But what it did teach me, and what I'm trying to get back out and help the community at least start a conversation, is what is a better way to do it? How can we be more effective for next year's through hikers, or for the through hikers that are going through right now? Again, I think your more extroverted through hikers would be like, man, come out, I want to see all of you, just meet me on the trail, let's talk. And I think your more introverted through hikers, or the ones who may have some some things in their past that makes them a little skittish of people, they're going to want something a little bit different. So the goal is, and this is just Early Riser's opinion, but I think the best solution to all this is, man, just try to get a hold of them, ask them what they need, how you can help, or just leave trail magic on the trail for them. I think ultimately everybody wins. I see how Appalachian Trail tells how Chica and Sunsets are doing it, and they got a Facebook page, and they seem to be managing people wanting to help really well. And hindsight being 2020, I think I would have started a Facebook page earlier just to help manage that, because YouTube's really hard to manage anything on those comments. And final business rules, man, I'm okay with dissension up to a point, but when it starts turning troll-like, or you're writing a 2-page or 500-word diatribe, and you're just ultimately like detracting from the positivity of what this channel's trying to provide, which is really just videos to help the community out and to hopefully provide money to St. Jude. Once you stray off of that, man, I'm getting rid of it. I'm getting rid of your comments, and then I'm going to make a decision whether to block it or not. And I don't want to. But man, just not gonna waste my time on negativity, man, because it's just, there's too much in the world. If you want to get in, involved in those kind of conversations, go to CNN, go to MSNBC, go to Fox News, and get on there and get some, to your heart's content, or start your own channel. That's what a lot of people don't understand. If you want to vote, if you don't like something I say or don't like me, vote with your time, vote with your views. Don't watch the channel. Go start your own channel, and then, dissent away. It's healthy sometimes to a point, but in the end, when I feel the negativity's drawing focus away from what we're doing here, you'll be gone, and I won't lose 1 second of sleep over it. So anyway, enough of that. Last thing I want to talk about is shoes and footwear briefly today. And this I see a lot of people struggling with, and in fact I watch Disciple every week, and he's still figuring out, man, what kind of insoles he's trying to go without insoles, because it just becomes a pain. And I dealt with the same pain, man. Y'all know, I think anyway, I said it every time I did it, but I switched out my insoles a lot, bought the wrong one sometimes, struggled with it for a while, and it wasn't until I went to trail runners and those Vask constant velocity shoes. I loved the spongy like insoles they had in them. Even though they retained water a lot, you could just pull them out and squeeze all the water out. But once I went that method and then kept my feet wet every day, like, my whole world changed. And I keep seeing people fighting to keep their feet dry, and that's a decision you got to make as a human being. We all have this human tendency to think that dry feet are good feet, and a lot of times that's true, man. If you're in the jungle, keeping your feet dry is imperative. But what I'll say is, even in the jungle, your feet are going to be wet. Even on the trail in Vermont and New Hampshire and Maine, your feet are going to be wet. So the key there, to me anyway, that I figured out, is you just got to take enough time off at night to let your feet totally dry out. So my rule was no more than 12 on, and then they had to dry for at least the same amount of time not hiking, where I can just air them out and get them ready to go for the next day. That worked out well. So again, if somebody said, early riser, what would you do different if you started again in Georgia? I would still start in February, maybe just a little bit earlier. There's some downsides to that, and I've mentioned that a couple of times, but concentrating on footwear, I wouldn't have started out with the shoes, the Solomons that I did. I started out with the mid-top Gore-Tex, which are, kind of like these. These are obviously the low tops here. But I wouldn't have started with Gore-Tex, because keeping your feet dry is just it's a reality that doesn't happen. If it starts raining, man, you don't get your rain pants on, whatever the scenario is, your feet are going to be wet. And my feet got really wet for the first time in Shenandoah, and I don't think those boots dried out 3 or 4 days at least, maybe a week, because it was so cold and it was so damp. It was so miserable. And my feet just stayed kind of wet and miserable inside those Gore-Tex. So if I had to do it again, Gore-Tex would never be on my feet for the entire trail. It just doesn't even make sense. Even when it's hot, your feet sweat more on Gore-Tex. Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Your feet are gonna sweat, especially, God, I don't know how you guys are doing it on the trail right now. Like, I walked out this morning and it's 80 degrees and humid in North Carolina, and I can't imagine trying to be in my Z-Packs duplex sleeping in this. So to all those who are, walking the trail right now, y'all have my deepest respect, because y'all are warriors beyond belief. Yeah, but your feet are gonna sweat in your shoes. So what I found out was having those trail runners, which were A, highly breathable, but B, I would just step in a creek every time I passed one, to be honest with you, in New Hampshire and Maine, and I would just gently stomp my feet into the water, flushing out all that salt and all those, all the bacteria, trying to keep all that flushed out of my shoes. And it worked very well. Again, man, I had the best sessions with my feet in the Northeast, because at least my theory is because I went to the trail runners and I kept my feet rinsed, wet, and basically clean the whole day. So anyway, your decisions when you start are Gore-Tex or not. Do I wear boots or shoes or something like that? And what I'll just say is you got to get some time before your hike starts to figure out what works best for you. You can figure it out on the trail. That is a technique and a method, just not a great one in my opinion. So figure it out. If you're gonna ask me for a suggestion, I'm gonna push people away from Gore-Tex. To me, it just doesn't make sense. But just know that I started there too, and I've got a lot of experience in woods and hiking and humping rucks in the military and wearing different kind of footwear, and I had to learn too, and that's what I learned is Gore-Tex just doesn't have its place on the AT, in early risers' opinion. To each his own though. Yeah, so that's it. Last thing is with the trail runners, I would always, just me personally, I would always have gaiters on. I've said this before, but those shoes being low to the ground, obviously, and the opening being so low to the ground, you're going to gather a lot of pine needles, dirt, rocks, a lot of mess in there that's going to get in there and cause some friction and rub. And if you're like me and you start walking, you just don't want to stop every 10 minutes to have to fix something. So gaiters is that good way to keep things out of your shoes. And it's also a great way to keep ticks at bay from crawling down there as well. It was cool enough on my hike to where I could wear my long pants most days, and then I would have the gaiters on the outside of them. And ticks had a really hard time. Like I picked many off my pants, legs and whatnot. Never had one on my skin at any time. And the gaiters helped that out, man. They're obviously, they go tight around your pants, or as tight as you want them usually. And man, ticks just had a hard time finding their way into my skin. So I know you summer hikers don't have that advantage, man. It's too hot to be wearing long pants around, and you have all that foliage rubbing up against your legs every day. So it's just something you got to fight. It seems like you guys are doing really good, at least the people I'm watching, on battling the bugs and the ticks. So congrats on that, man. Again, I think what y'all are dealing with on the trail right now, so much worse than the cold or whatever I was experiencing. So kudos to you. My hat's off to you. You guys are warriors. All right, y'all, that's it for Saturday. This has already been about 12 and a half minutes. Lord, I just ramble. I'm sorry I ramble so much, but hey, keep watching the videos. We're gonna keep sending money to St. Jude's, and man, life's good. I hope everything's well out there with you and yours. And hey, ask questions on the channel if it's something. I'm gonna try to review them before I do these every week, and I'll answer anything that I can if it'll help the community out. And again, it's just my opinion. Not everybody's gonna agree with it. And if you disagree and you want to make comments, man, just make them brief, make them succinct, and try to keep it positive. Even in a dissenting role, man, you can still be positive, and then we'll comment on it. But once it's done, then we're not going to have like 4 or 5 replies back, and again, 500-word dissertations, man. Not going to deal with it. That has its place, but it ain't on here. So hey, I love all of you. I hope to get to meet more of you in the near future. Like I keep telling Gadgets, man, I want to come up and do maybe a section hike with him and us provide some trail magic. I want to get together with a greeter, probably Bigfoot. I'd like to do all these things next year when the hiking season kicks off. And if you guys are going to be out there hiking, I'd love to know, where you're going to be. Maybe we can stay in contact, and then maybe I can get some trail magic out in front of you. All right, y'all. God bless, and we'll see y'all maybe next week. All right, y'all. Deuces.